So that's another awesome question. And again, when you're in touch with God's presence, God will guide you. You see, often there are many different paths to liberation. Now, I myself have written a post a few years ago, which I think is quite a good post, but I'll let you decide, called The Roadmap to Enlightenment. And it outlines a kind of roadmap, a basic map of the territory, let's say. And often when you're seeking, you're following some kind of teacher or teaching. But then when you get in touch with the inner teacher, it's completely different because you trust that inner teacher and that guides you. So with happiness, with feeling states, and happiness or love, you could say, is a feeling state. And we can define those words in that context and say, yeah, happiness is a feeling. And if we're attached to happiness and attached to a warm, fuzzy feeling of love, that certainly can be a trap. Again, essentially, love, happiness is a feeling state. We can define love and happiness as a feeling, which is a phenomena that arises in our consciousness. And therefore it's transient. It comes and goes. So if we're clinging to it, it's a source of bondage. It's egoic, because it's the ego that wants to be happy. It's the ego that cares about happiness. This is not what I said last time, by the way. But it's the same. It's the same essential principle. In the traditional teachings, we find this teaching in different guises. In Vedanta, there's a teaching called the Pancha Koshas, which means the 5 coverings or the 5 sheaths. If you think of a knife and you can sheath a knife, so it's the 5 coverings, the 5 sheaths. And the innermost sheath is called the Anandamaya Kosha. Ananda means happiness or bliss. In many North Indian languages, the word Anand or Ananda just means happiness. So the Anandamaya Kosha is a form of illusion. It's illusory happiness. It's not the real happiness. It's happiness that comes and goes. So when we're in a meditation, for example, perhaps we feel a deep sense of love and bliss, and we go, oh my gosh, I just had this amazing experience of love and bliss, and it was amazing, and it was divine, it was incredible, I loved it so much, and I was at one with everything. You see, that kind of thing is an illusion. It's a potential source of mischief and a source of attachment, because we get attached to these feeling states. So that's a trap. Well, there may or may not be a difference. So, but on the other hand, there is the bliss of falling in love with God, falling in love with the teacher, falling in love with the teaching. It's very happy and wholesome. And it's a feeling state, and it's illusion, but it's still good. Let me explain. If you read Ramana's Who Am I, he talks about various different aids to self-inquiry and self-realization. One of them is breath control, pranayama, so breathing exercises. One of them is to adopt a healthy, nutritious, primarily vegetarian diet, the sattvic diet. One of them is concentration. So Ramana defines a strong mind and a weak mind in Who Am I? In his text, Nanya, Who Am I? And he says a strong mind, only a strong mind can really be successful with self-inquiry, the path of inquiry. And a weak mind will not work. So what's a strong mind? And what's a weak mind? He says a strong mind is a mind that is one-pointed, that is focused and concentrated. A weak mind is a mind that's just thinking, worrying, thinking about all these different things, what's often called the monkey mind. You know, it's scattered, it's dissipated. Whereas a focused mind is the strong mind. So, what do we focus upon? Well, you can focus on whatever you like, but take a sort of spiritual target, as it were. It can be a mantra, a sound or a sentence you repeat. You can repeat it verbally, or you can repeat it inwardly in your mind. But one of the most powerful sources of concentration is God or Guru. You see, when we fall in love with Guru, our mind is just enamored and enraptured and in love with the name and form. So for me, just to be totally in love with Ramana's name, form, his presence, that is intoxicating. And it's ultimately illusory, but it's to be encouraged. Why? Because it makes the mind strong in the way we've just defined it. It makes the mind one-pointed. It just takes over everything. It becomes the most important thing. So following these feeling states is, if they can be it can be incredibly healing as well, to feel happiness and bliss throughout your daily life. It's a lot better than not feeling happiness and bliss. So it can be healing, it can be purifying. And when it's time to let go of the happiness and bliss, then you let go. But the teacher will tell you that. Then it's time for inquiry. Who am I? But sometimes it's not the time for inquiry. Sometimes it's a time for purification, for love, concentration, for strengthening the mind, from purifying our hearts. How do we know? Well, the inner teacher tells us. You're not sure? You can have a chat to me. Maybe I can help. I don't know. I'll try. See, any kind of feeling, is something that it can be experienced. That is transient. So the bliss of the Anandamaya Kosha is transient. It's something that you experience. It's something that appears in your consciousness. The bliss of the self is not bliss. It's not happiness, because it can't be put into words. It's called bliss because there's no suffering. But it's not what you call happiness or love.